There are very many clues throughout this story that Victor's dad has been manipulating Tabitha from the very beginning in more ways than we could ever imagine.
What happens if I refuse to play along?
You can't do this!
What we see right here in this moment with Victor's dad is huge, absolutely massive for us to be able to really understand what has been going on with him ever since Tabitha first met him when she arrived in Camden, Maine. Because this moment is one of the biggest signs that were given to us by the writers of this story that Victor's dad is clearly not the person that he claims to be, and that he could easily be the entity in control of the monsters. As what I want you to notice here is how he intentionally uses his extremely explosive displays of emotion to sell the illusion that he's trying to portray. Basically, what I'm saying is that just like we see from the Man in Yellow's incredibly over-the-top, highly emotional expressions when he's playing Sophia, we also see the same exact type of manipulation coming from Victor's dad. And the logic behind this tactic is very simple. We tend to associate people who can't control their emotions as being childish, the opposite of mature. Basically, if someone is like a child, or more specifically like a baby who cannot control emotions, then we tend to assume that they're practically harmless. It's a very common human bias that the evil forces of the town repeatedly take advantage of to manipulate the people of the town, which, of course, isn't actually true, and in reality it's actually the opposite. Someone who cannot control their emotions is perhaps the most dangerous one of them all. But this is what brings me to my next point, something that is very important for us to really understand the level of manipulation Victor's dad has been using on Tabitha.
It doesn't matter, it's just a tree.
Well, it's not the original, if that matters.
What?
The original's in a park a few towns over. In fact,
what?
you could say that tree is where this all started.
Well, you need to take me there right now, Henry. I just need to go to the tree. Please take me.
This scene right here is very crucial for us to be able to start to get an understanding of what Victor's dad's motives actually are and what he was trying to do the entire time that he was manipulating Tabitha in what is supposedly Camden, Maine. Because what I want you to especially notice here is how Victor's dad is the one who tells Tabitha about the other bottle tree, but he waits for her specifically to ask him to take her there. This, of course, is not an accident. It's extremely important that Tabitha believes everything that is happening to her is entirely by her own actions rather than the actual reality, which is that she was being manipulated by the evil forces of the town ever since she first woke up in the hospital. Like, notice how Tabitha didn't even know that there was even another bottle tree apparently located in the middle of a public park before Victor's dad told her about it. But at the end of the interaction, Victor's dad had her begging him to take her to that bottle tree. And this is because Tabitha was desperate to get any answers whatsoever about Fromland, and the being pretending to be Victor's dad obviously knew this. It's possible that this tree, filled with dozens of glass bottles that have never been removed in 40 years by city officials despite his claim that it exists in a public park, likely doesn't even exist in the first place. Basically, what we see here is that he could have just been improvising on the spot to come up with a reason that would ensure that Tabitha would agree to get into the car with him. And this is why the next scene that I'm about to show you matters so much, because it's just one of the first of many different hints that Victor's dad had been intentionally luring Tabitha to get into his car so that he can knock her unconscious and drag her back to the town of Fromville.
It does that sometimes. That tape's been stuck in there for years. Lou is Miranda's favorite song. You okay?
Yeah, it's just mine and my husband's song.
Small world.
This moment right here was really the first time ever since Tabitha had started interacting with Victor's dad since her arrival in Camden, Maine, that she started to question everything that had been happening to her. Because this is when Tabitha starts to put together that all of the things that she's been experiencing are starting to seem a little bit too convenient to have been an accident. But at this point, Tabitha still hasn't seen enough to know for sure whether she's being manipulated or not, even though we as the viewer know she obviously is. Because what I really want you to notice here is the incredible similarity of the radio turning on by itself and what we see from the jukeboxes in the diner that play music specifically to toy with and mock the people living in the town. Clearly, this is not a coincidence. Like, even when you think about it, Victor's dad's statement that it's a small world is very ironic, because if you consider the possibility that Tabitha never even left Fromland to begin with, it starts to become laughable to consider what he really means when he says that statement. But it's clear that this was always just planned by the being pretending to be Victor's dad from the beginning to be the end of Tabitha's time in what is supposedly Camden, Maine. Because what happens next is literally undeniable proof that Victor's dad always wanted Tabitha to get into the car with him.
There should be some crackers in the glove compartment. Might settle your stomach.
Where'd you get this?
Now, what we see here is one of the many signs given to us by the creators of this story that Victor's dad is clearly not the person that he wants us to believe he is, and that he clearly knows more that he's revealing and that he's been manipulating us from the very first time that we ever saw him. Like, I really want you to take note of how Tabitha would absolutely have never found that bracelet if Victor's dad did not tell Tabitha specifically to look inside of that glove compartment. And keep in mind that all of this is happening after we saw him specifically manipulating Tabitha so that she would agree to get into the car in the first place under the claim that he was taking her to a bottle tree that likely does not even exist in the first place. So this is clearly not a coincidence. Just like Victor's dad somehow knew that the boy in white lured Tabitha to the top of the lighthouse, or that he knew Jade fell off the ladder because he was having visions of something that only he could see, the writers are making it very clear to us, the viewer, that Victor's dad has a much higher level of control in the From universe than we are being led to believe. In other words, it is very clear that there is a direct connection between Victor's dad and the entity in control of the monsters. And this is why what I'm about to show you matters so much more than you have ever realized.
I'm so stupid. This can't be real.
I made this for my husband.
I don't understand.
No,
What is that?
I went through a magic tree and traveled to a lighthouse. Wake up in the hospital.
You just happened to be here.
No. This was your mistake.
Now, it's at this moment right here in their interactions that Tabitha starts to truly realize the impossibility that all of these things are happening by chance. And she is obviously 100% correct. There is no possibility whatsoever that what she has been experiencing ever since arriving in Camden, Maine could possibly be by chance. The boy she sees after leaving the hospital, the priest, the lunchbox with Victor's dad's address, the paintings, the bottle tree, her and Jim Matthews' favorite song playing in the car. What we see here is that she is being directed to specific checkpoints and then being given a task that would progress the story, just like what you would see in a quest, just like what you would see in a video game. Basically, it's at this point in the interaction that Tabitha realizes she is being played by the entity in control of the monsters himself. And even when you think about this bracelet, it doesn't even make any sense, because Victor's mom was literally wearing her own bracelet before she got bodied by Smiley. And do you know what that means? It means that if Victor's dad has never been in the town, he literally could not have Victor's mom's bracelet, unless, of course, he is the entity in control of the monsters and he literally just took it off of her body after she died. Because Tabitha specifically says in season 1 episode 6 that she only made one bracelet and that she made it for Jim Matthews, her husband. It's very important to understand that Tabitha did not make any bracelet for herself, but yet Victor's dad wants you to believe that her predecessor in Reincarnation, i.e. Victor's mom, made two different bracelets with the same unique, identical identifying mark. This literally cannot be true. The only way this could even be possible is if there is an outside source inserting the desire to make this bracelet into random women while they are outside of Fromland. And obviously, it would be the entity in control of the monsters himself, Victor's dad, that would be doing that. A being that we already know has power and influence even outside of Fromville. And this is what brings me to my next point, which is how we know for a fact that he always planned to cause the car accident as a ruse to bring Tabitha back to the town of Fromville.
What happens if I refuse to play along?
You can't tell him my son is alive. You just decide that you're going to give up and then we're going.
This moment right here is really the defining moment that makes it undeniable that the car accident was always by design. Like, he knocks her unconscious, and then the next time she wakes up, she's in the ambulance already back in Fromland. And what we see here is just how good at manipulation Victor's dad really is. Because when you actually think about what happened between him and Tabitha, the conflict was never truly settled. It was just pushed aside. Like when she wakes up in the ambulance, he's pretending to be unconscious so that Tabitha cannot keep questioning him on his incredibly suspicious behaviors and actions. So basically, the only conclusion that Tabitha could come to in this moment is that he was correct when he was saying that she's being completely ridiculous for even daring to suggest that he is suspicious in any way. In other words, it means that he was correct for saying that she was being a hysterical woman for even daring to claim that he is not a trustworthy individual. Basically, what we see here is that the most powerful tool that the entity possesses when it comes to manipulating us is not the Nightwalkers or the music box or the kimono or the man in yellow. It is actually doubt. because it's very important to understand that the only reason Tabitha could not be firm in her very correct assertion that she was being played is because Tabitha doesn't know that there is at least one being in Fromland who can literally shapeshift into other people. And there's also the fact that they can literally insert visions, dreams, and therefore memories into your brain. And that informational gap was all he needed to get Tabitha to bring exactly what he wanted back to the town, which was obviously hope, because that is what makes you willing to suffer. And this is what brings me to this next scene.
Stand there, you're gonna tell me that didn't feel real?
Sarah tried to kill my son because something out here convinced her that if she did that, we could all go home.
No, hey, wait, listen, that was different.
How?
What we are really seeing here is just one piece of a very prominent storyline we've been seeing throughout the story, and that is that Tabitha has been experiencing a crazy amount of manipulation ever since she arrived into the town, and she's gotten to a point where she started to question if anything that these entities are trying to tell them is even true at all. So basically what we are seeing here is once again even more proof that Tabitha is actually playing the same role as Christopher, while Jade is actually playing the same role as Victor's mom, because Christopher was the one that the boy in white asks to go through the tree, not Victor's mom. And when you think about how Jade and Victor's mom are the only characters who can play the violin in the entire show, because Tabitha is clearly going down the same path of everything lies here, like we see from Christopher. And I saw this Reddit post pointing out that Victor's mom does not have a wedding ring. And I've said this before, but I am not even convinced that this woman is actually Victor's mom, because Victor places his sister's drawings in Christopher's car, even though the car of the woman that he claims is his mother was perfectly intact, probably just like a couple dozen feet away, which could be a hint that Christopher was actually their dad this entire time, and this could have just been some random woman in the town that was taking care of him and his sister. But either way, my takeaway is that Victor's mom was probably never even married in the first place, which is why she's not wearing a wedding ring. And it's interesting to consider this because this scene in the trailer where Jade gets attacked by the monsters might happen because Jade's role, previously played by Victor's mom, could be the naive fool who always believes the entities in the town and gets killed because of it. Whereas Tabitha, just like Christopher, could be the skeptic who believes that nothing in the town is trying to help. But the fact that they had Tabitha specifically questioning it on screen actually starts to make me wonder if they are in fact reincarnated, but the boy in white faked the entire thing in Camden, Maine, because Tabitha specifically, i.e. the skeptic, the same role played by Christopher, not Victor's mom, has to be convinced to save the children so that the game can end. But either way, what's most important to understand here is the scope of the manipulation being experienced by these people is far greater than we can ever really comprehend. Like, even when we look at Tilly, there were so many signs in the last episode that she was clearly playing us the entire time. So go watch this video here to see my explanation of the insane amount of connections between Tilly and the entity in control of the monsters.